So now it seems, at least according to the Irish Times, that we Irish actually started off as black. Does that mean I can use the N? Now, if you're in favour of no-holds-barred coverage of the news and current events, then click that subscribe button. YouTube is trying to suffocate this channel, and we won't let that happen. Now, if you are watching me from the UK, you will already be well familiar with where I'm going today. For years and years, decades probably, there's been a desperate attempt on behalf of the media and the progressive types which now run Britain and indeed Ireland to shoehorn in, to crowbar in black people to our history and our heritage. And I think in terms of Britain, you had Beachy Head woman and you had Cheddar Man, and they were all supposed to be, as black as King Cashweo of the Zulus, according to the various historians that they would trot out to parrot this made-up line. It was basically all fiction, all balderdash. Well, we now, in Britain, in terms of that project, I think it's gotten as far as, King Henry VIII was probably black. I think King Arthur, Excalibur fame, he was probably black, and his court was probably black. Queen Guinevere was probably black. This has basically been going on for years and years in the UK. Well, as you know, everything that happens there quickly gravitates at ever-increasing speed thanks to the internet and modern communications to us here in Ireland. We are desperately trying to become the woke capital of Europe. And as part of that package, as part of that direction, we are now going down the same path, where the Irish intelligentsia, the Irish chattering classes, the Irish progressive types who have infected all of our institutions, mainly the mainstream media, politics, education, all the usual suspects. Funny they never infect the drain cleaning department, never seem to affect the welders or the scaffolders. They don't seem to affect them lads much at all. But anyway, they're infecting all of these institutions, and as part of that viral infection, we are now trying to crowbar in, to shoehorn in black people to Irish culture and history, into every facet of our historical records, or historical stories, or historical legends. Look, I've said it before on this channel, and it's the absolute truth. I make no bones about it. I didn't see an actual real-life black person until I was 15 years of age. Not because I was avoiding them, and not because I lived down a mine shaft. There just wasn't any to see. Both in my locale, in my town, in my schools, or even when I went to bigger towns, or even when I went to Dublin, which is occasionally. There just wasn't any. Now, I was having this conversation a while back with a school friend of mine who did make the point, listen, we had a black man in the town. That was Joey Findlay. I said, no, Joey Findlay was the coal man. It's not really what I'm talking about here. It's a whole different thing. But anyway, you take the point. There just wasn't any. And there was no mention of them in any of the stories, the historical events, the retelling of events. And I have met and spoke to, as a small child, people who were involved in seminal events of Irish history. I'm talking about the Revolution, I'm talking about the Rising, I'm talking about the War of Independence, I'm talking about the Civil War. I've spoken to it didn't mean a lot to me as a small child. You're talking to these old codgers and they're telling you stories. Never in any of those stories, not once, was there a mention of a sub-Saharan African black man or woman in any of them. Why? Well, because they weren't there. There you go. It's really simple. There's nothing to it. But if you look at the modern age and the modern media and the modern take, progressive take, to be politically correct, and that's my view of progressivism. That's my view of woke. Woke to me is like political correctness on absolute steroids. It's like political correctness turned up to 11 in Spinal Tap terms. That's what woke is to me in a very basic sense. So this is a trend that has started in various places around Europe because black people have flooded in. certainly to Britain, and in the last 20 or 30 years, probably 20 years, 20 and a bit, to Ireland too. And now the media feel, well, to make them feel welcome here, we're going to have to insert them retroactively into Irish history. You know, Finn McCool, Niall of the Nine Hostages, the Children of Lir. You know, we've got to get a black person in there somewhere. You know, somebody who had to have at least dark skin. So, and that's all nonsense. There was never a mention of that. It's not part of our history. It's not part of our culture. It's not part of our heritage. It just wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing till yesterday. You know, it's like there was no Irish lads living with the Inuit tribe in the 1870s. There just wasn't. There was no Paddy Maloney's there. There was no Johnny McGonagall's there. There weren't. Do I feel aggrieved that there weren't? No. No, I don't. Not in any way, shape or form. They just weren't there. Why should I care? The Inuits were doing their thing. We were over here doing our thing, eating potatoes and drinking as much as we could get our hands on. But that's what it was. So I don't know why there's this mad rush to insert different races and different ethnicities into a monoculture, which was us Irish, pretty much. You know, and don't at me with, now hold on a second now. There was a black lad working in a chip shop in Castlebar in 19... I don't want to hear that. That's nonsense talk. I'm not saying there wasn't. I'm sure there was, you know, black doctors somewhere in Dublin in a hospital or something like that. That's not the point. What I'm saying is, we were, until yesterday, a monoculture. That's it. We were just Irish. There was no native Irish and blah, blah, blah. There was just, you were an Irish person or you weren't an Irish person. That's all there was. And we didn't really think about it, didn't talk about it, didn't care about it. It was just taken as read. Just in the same vein that nobody talked about men becoming women. Why? Because they can't. It wasn't a thing to talk about. It was just up there with nonsensical stuff, you know. That's the way it was. Now, the Irish Times, as part of this nouveau rush to suddenly insert black people into the equation here, have come out with this article. And get a load of this, guys, get a load of this. Early Irish people were dark-skinned with blue eyes. Documentary. Hunter-gatherer population inhabited Ireland before being replaced by early farmers. Yes, guys, an RTE documentary promoted by the Irish Times, or as I call them, the anti-Irish Times. What a perfect combination, the perfect storm, you might say. Now, as most people here in Ireland already know, and indeed I believe it may have been proved recently by the sociology department in Harvard, dogs get more information from sniffing another dog's arse than humans do from watching the RTE news. And as far as I'm concerned, that statement is fact-checked true. But who came up with this amazing piece of dog's arse sniffing? I mean, scientific research. Well, it was Dr. Lara Cassidy of Trinity College, Dublin. Now, Dr. Cassidy goes on to say the hunter-gatherer Irish not only had dark skin, but also bright eyes, a combination rarely seen today. They operated mostly along the coast of the Burren, gathering shellfish and then moving inland to hunt wild boar and gather hazelnuts. The Burren's unique geological landscape means it has preserved evidence of millennia of settlement in the area of West Clare. The hunter-gatherers were replaced by early farmers. The earliest evidence of farmers in Ireland is in the Burren. They arrived approximately 6,000 years ago in what was known as the Neolithic era. Yes, guys, dark-skinned with bright eyes. Now, here's where the deception comes in. Here's where everybody, including the Irish Times and all the wokerati and all the media types and all the educational types and political types, everybody who's desperately trying to crowbar the black population, black people in general, into Irish culture, seizes on this moment. Dark-skinned, you said. Oh, you said dark-skinned, darker-skinned. Now, dark-skinned in this context means a slight bit of a tan. It's like me, if I go out on the 3 days of sunshine we get in Ireland every year. I get a bit of a tan. my skin goes slightly darker than it is right now. It's usually red, sometimes white. Well, if I go out in the sun for a few days, or if I go, God forbid, for a week to Mallorca or the Costa del Sol, why, I'm a darker version of me, with bright eyes. Yes, behind these specs lurks a pair of bright eyes. Now, that's a darker skinned version of me. That's what we're talking about here. But, no, according to the Irish Times, once you mention dark of any shape, stripe or form, you must immediately revert to the king of the Zulus. You're as dark as King Kishwayo. You're black. No, there was a slight tan, a slight tint. There you go. See? Spoiler alert, we weren't black. We were a slightly more tanned version of this. Yes, that's it in a nutshell. But that's not what you get from the Irish Times headlines. And from the picture, why, the picture is of completely sub-Saharan African type people, and they've stuck in some blue eyes on them. And they're saying, listen, look what we found. All you Irish people used to look like this. And that's how they get you, guys. That's how they get you. They take a small sliver of something and they blow it up into, hey, why, you people are practically South Africans. In fact, all the sub-Saharan Africans flooding into your country now are just reclaiming their homeland. Why don't you just give them your stuff? It's not really yours. You're just interlopers, you white, blue-eyed Irish person. Give them your stuff. What the hell is wrong with you people? Racists? Well, with all this woke nonsense swirling around the toilet bowl, I think it's about time we introduced a bit of sanity to the whole debate. Let me introduce you to world-renowned anthropologist Robert Sepper. And this is what he has to say on this very topic. And I quote, dark compared to a population of fair-skinned gingers, not in the context of sub-Saharan African phenotype. This is Afrocentric propaganda used for social engineering to justify an influx of black migrants. I'm an anthropologist. I address this here. And I advise any of you who are interested in this topic to go and watch Robert Sepper's video on YouTube, freely available, no charge, on the origins of the first Europeans. You won't find this on the BBC, because the BBC, like RTE, like all the mainstream media, is captured. They're in the pockets of the wokerati. They're the enemies of people like you and me. In fact, Robert's not finished there. He goes on to answer a question by Rory O'Connor. Sub-Saharans wouldn't survive here 100 years ago due to vitamin D deficiency. Robert says that's not the point. Skin colour is not the issue. Sub-Saharan hunter-gatherers that never had a written language, were not seafaring, did not ever have clothes, and whose genetic makeup included super archaic admixture not found in Europeans, were not Irish. Ever. Period. Sorry. So in short, RTE, the Irish Times, all you academic shills, I see you. We on this channel, we see you. We know what you're doing. We know what you're about. I don't buy it. We don't buy it. You're trying to piss down our backs and tell us it's raining, and we're not having it. This is not a thing, and you're trying to make it a thing. You're trying to craft a thing. You're trying to make a thing. You're trying to magic a thing, like the Wizard of Oz. No, you're just behind the curtain. We pulled the curtain back. You're just a bunch of arseholes. Trying to lie to us. Trying to spin to us. Trying to make up an alternate reality that we all know isn't reality. Thanks for sticking with me. You guys are the very best. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you hit the notification bell. YouTube is trying to suppress this channel. You can never let the bad guys win.